Clerk, can we start with the roll?
Yes, we do have quorum.
Wonderful, wonderful. And do we normally say who everybody is, or do we just?
Yes,
Okay,
I'll go
wonderful.
over roll right now.
Wonderful, thank you.
George Gastil,
I'm here.
Casey Myers. Here. Thank you. And let me just remind everybody to please unmute yourselves. Thank you. Christian Hernandez.
Here.
Debbie Marshall. Here. Juan Lopez. Can you unmute yourself? You'll want to have this light turn red.
Thank you. Present.
Thank you. Heriberto Gaitan,
Here.
Todd Lordson, George Malone, Samantha Steven. Here. Justin Augustine, Kevin Marquez, Ashley Wiley. Here. Jana Schwartz. Here. Charlene Ornelas. Tanya Azevedo. George Rivas. Brent Boyd.
Here.
Belinda Kelly.
Here.
Monique Ball. Ali Rice. Casey Rodville. Betsy Knight. And Chair, we have quorum.
Thanks so much. And do we have any public comment?
Chair, we do not have any public comments at this time.
Okay. And is there a motion to approve the minutes?
A motion to approve the minutes.
Oh, thank you, Debbie. I'll second that. And do we do voice vote on that? Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
And are there any no votes or any abstentions? Okay, wonderful. The minutes are approved. Now we move on to our discussion items. The first thing is an update on access services with Mr. Jay Washburn.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Glad to see everyone here today. Just want to kind of give everybody a little update overview on some things going on with access, things that we implemented, things that we're working on implementing, and then obviously give you an update on the strike action that's going on right now. Just as want to kind of give a reminder of some of the things we've been working on here. A lot of innovations we've been trying to put into the program. Anyone that's an access user or a guardian for anyone has probably become very familiar with our automated phone notifications that we send out. We've been sending quite a few of those out to clients, trying to make sure we keep all the writers and any of their responsible parties updated on the status of the job action, working to make sure that we get this communication out as quickly as we can. We've done a little less the last week or so because there really hasn't been anything changing, and we want people to get tired of seeing messages that just say same stuff or status quo. So when we do have some changes or hopefully good news to share with them, that we can. Reservation web portal, again, going well with that. A lot of people like the flexibility of that reservation portal. Gives them 24-hour access to be able to book trips, cancel trips, make changes, view their trips they have scheduled. So a lot more flexibility than the standard reservation office. The mobile application that goes along with the web app, a lot of good positive feedback and use out of that. A lot of people utilizing it. We encourage people more and more, anyone capable to use those mobile applications. Again, available 24 hours a day. You can also track your ride and see where it is and be able to follow up with it. Cashless fare system, we're really crossing our fingers. This has been a started pre-COVID project, but with a lot of the issues with COVID and changes in banking regulations and other things, we're working very hard to try and get this implemented so that access riders will have a cashless option for fares, just like all the other riders. Travel training program, we're working on getting that re-implemented again. That again was kind of put on hold with COVID, but we're working on getting that rolled out again. We have two different styles of travel training. We have travel training that is done by MTM, our eligibility determination company, and they work with riders, especially conditional or not eligible riders, to help them to see and work with them on how they can use the fixed route transit system. And then we also have Transit 101, which is done by our marketing department, that basically goes out to senior centers or other places, anybody who's interested, to help basically just explain to people how to use public transit, how it works, eliminate some of the mystique of it, and give people a higher comfort level with using public transit, and kind of break that barrier down for people with their initial access to public transit. Automated ride tracking through the app, I did mention that already. We've had a pilot program we ran where we offered 4 free rides to new users of the app who signed up for the app. It's called Easy Access. We'll probably be running some special promotions like that again in the future, just again trying to encourage individuals to utilize the app for reservations. We recently just extended the reservation window as of June 1st from 2 days to 10 days. So far, we're getting some good positive feedback on that. Again, it's very early, but I don't think there's a lot that anyone would look at negative with giving them a larger opportunity to make reservations and not being locked into the 2 days. The last one, this is our first public announcement of this, so you're the first to hear this. We're going to be changing the eligibility certification period from 3 years to 5 years, effective October 1, 2023. This will be for all certifications after October 1. Anyone who is currently certified will still have their 3-year and come in at the end of that 3 years for their recertifications. But at that point, they would, if they are recertified, it would be for 5 years. So it doesn't change existing certifications. We need some rollout period for this. But as of October 1, anyone who is certified, either new or recertified, the period will be 5 years. So this definitely lowers the burden on people. And again, a 15-year period, they would come in 3 times as opposed to 5 times. So we think this will be a very positive thing for the access riders and lower the burden on them. Work stoppage, kind of the big topic of conversation right now. There are 2 work stoppages going on currently. There is some confusion sometimes when people talk about them, but there are 2 different Teamsters locals that are on strike. One is out of the South Bay fixed route location. The other is out of Copley, or where we operate the paratransit service out of. Those are 2 separate groups, 2 separate negotiations, 2 separate agreements. So very different paths to resolution on those 2. We did experience a 2-day work stoppage in April on the 26th and 27th. That was actually not a strike in the technical terms. Teamsters employees from El Centro in Imperial County came up and picketed other Teamsters locations here, one of them being our paratransit location, and asked the employees to honor that picket line and not cross. So that is what occurred on April 26th and 27th. It wasn't any direct job action by our local Teamsters union and local 542. Local strike actually began with the local Teamsters on May 22nd. That job action has continued until this date and forward for an indefinite amount of time at this point. First Transit and MTS in cooperation are working hard to make sure we keep riders informed. Again, emails, robocalls going out regularly with any updates or any information. We are still accepting all reservations. We don't know when this strike is going to end, and that we could find out at 5 o'clock one day it's over. And we want to make sure that we're not taking reservations so that we're prepared to optimize the service as soon as the strike ends. We then book as many trips as we possibly can on the resources First Transit has and all of the subcontractors. We've added 3 additional subcontractors, 2 more that are coming online, hopefully by the end of this week, and 3 more that we're looking at possibly bringing on the following week. So we're trying to do everything we can to provide as much service to the access community and the riders as we possibly can in this situation. Then each morning we look at what we are not able to cover, and then we notify those individuals that we will not be able to service them that day. I know it's short notice for some people, but again, we're always hopeful that the next day we're going to be able to get back to service. Been very honest, very upfront with people. I truly believe in that. Making sure that they know we can't guarantee rides. We can't even necessarily guarantee a round trip's going to happen right now. We might be able to get them one way and not the other way, but we want everyone to be fully informed so they can make the most educated decision on what mode of transportation they want to book or secure for that day. We've been covering about 55% of daily service. Not satisfied with that, again, while we're working to bring more contractors in, but it is an extremely difficult process to find contractors to come in and cover almost 1,000 trips a day, based on most of them already have business and work out there. We've had some great partnerships and people stepping up to work with us, and taxi, user, taking on extra volume, and these other companies, ramping up as quick as they can. Everyone I can tell you on this list is very committed to servicing the disability community. Fact, Care 7 Telecom are all paratransit contracting services. It's what they do for a living. So again, they've been great in stepping up and assisting us with this job action and trying to serve the clients. Negotiations are ongoing between the 2 parties. They are using a mediator. And I just was informed that their next scheduled meeting is at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So again, we're very hopeful every time they get together that we possibly will come out with a resolution. Even with that, if they came to an agreement tomorrow with time to notice their members, to hold a vote, return to work, even if it was they came to an agreement tomorrow, we still would probably be 4 to 5 days out from service returning. So we have to take it on a day-by-day basis right now and do the best we can. Next steps, we're looking again to maximize our trip completions right now through taxi and the other subcontractors right now. Getting the operators back to work. I mean, that's first and foremost. We are a third party to that agreement. We just hope both sides can come to an agreement as quickly as possible and get back to servicing the disability community. We have to determine what drivers are returning to work. This is a concern. Unfortunately, when a strike starts going this long, anyone that's worked in and been involved in a situation like this, you start losing drivers through attrition. Some drivers don't necessarily want to cross the picket line and honor the strike with their fellow coworkers, but they also have families and responsibilities, and they wind up going and getting alternate employment. Sometimes that's temporary, sometimes that's permanent. So we have to then determine what workforce actually will return after this strike. It's going to be very important, and we've had numerous meetings about that transition, making sure that the subcontractors are still there, involved, work assigned to them, and transitioning to the contracted employees as quickly as we can, but also ensuring that we provide the service to the access riders. We were having struggles with some short staffing on access prior to this. So the subs will probably be very integral to some degree continuing to provide service while First Transit again continues to ramp up their staffing. They're having a lot of success with that and increased hiring class sizes prior to the strike. So we're hoping that they'll be able to get back to that relatively quickly. So we will be utilizing a variety of services to make sure we serve the clients. And that's MTS's responsibility and commitment here, is do everything we can to serve the clients. And really that's it. It's a lot. It's not just it, but I would be glad to entertain any questions or comments.
Thank you. And so many positive things as well as so many difficult things. I think that people really appreciate the 10-day, the reservations makes a huge difference to people that have medical appointments and things like that. Are there questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I had two questions. Sure, I'm on the mic here. One is for the reservation, extending it out to 10 days. Yes, that's going to be wonderful. Definitely a game changer. Is that both through the phone and you, like the phone service, and then you also mentioned the app?
It's through all platforms.
And then my second question, I think it's great we're extending the certifications from 3 to 5 years. Is there any potential or anything in the works for individuals who are permanently disabled to be able to do a one-time certification process?
There have been lengthy discussions on that. Unfortunately, what it always comes back to is where do you draw the line? Someone will always be on the wrong side of that in their opinion and feel that we are discriminating against them based on their disability. So the decision has been made, and part of ADA is equal treatment, is that everyone will have a 5-year certification. There will not be a line drawn for what is considered a permanent or not. That's a very gray area. So hence this is kind of the compromise in going to a longer eligibility period.
Thank you.
Was it Jorge?
Jay, in the future, moving forward, I guess my question is, why can't MTS do the contracts and employ the bus drivers for the paratransit and also for South Bay instead of outsourcing to a company like First Transit?
My answer would be, honestly, is that's a decision that is way above my pay grade on this. I couldn't give you an answer on that. I'm sorry. That would be something I would suggest you listen to the conversation recording from the board meeting earlier today. There was lengthy discussion on that.
And I'm not sure pay grade is the issue. I get $150 for an MTS meeting. But your point is well taken. The MTS board is actually will be looking at what the ramifications and costs would be if it was pulled in-house instead of contracting out. Other questions? Yeah, Todd.
Afternoon, Jay. Hey, a couple things. The 10-day reservation window again, it's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. The 3 to 5 years again, thank you. Completely get the response that you gave. I think I sent you some feedback on the reservation web portal from Very. Something to the effect of if you have multiple or varying mobility devices, you weren't allowed to like select which one. And so she's had some difficulties with that. I don't know if you've had any time to look at that.
I did get that. I did forward it to First Transit as well as our software company to look at. Changes are slow and lots of zeros behind them. Especially when you have medical technology. Again, not saying it won't happen, but yes, it's definitely something we share feedback with our vendors. They're very receptive to and appreciative of it. And having to work with them on trying to make those type of changes. So.
And that's exactly what I told her is that, I'm sure it's something with trapeze. I'm sure there's a lot behind the scenes. And so, but thank you. I appreciate that. And then there's one other one in here I think I had. The subcontractors, I haven't heard too much, but unfortunately yesterday we had a couple issues come up where I think one driver was told the family that they could only pay on the app. They couldn't pay with ticket or cash. And then we had one where now I'm trying to think what the other issue was, but I also understand though too, there's a lot of training, I'm sure, and I've basically encouraged people to make sure the driver calls back to dispatch and gets clarity on whatever it is that they're, or has the family to ask the driver to get that. So appreciate the update, and I'm sure most everybody here, like myself, understands and realizes, as do you, that a lot of people within the community that we work with are really impacted by this as a result of mobility devices and things like that. So just appreciate the update today, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Gina.
Again, thank you so much. I know that you want to serve as much as people need to be served. Clarification on the 55% of the daily service and that people are getting calls day of, to then not get rides. Is there a determination for who those rides go to?
There is not, we cannot under federal law,
Mhm.
the FTA, we're not even allowed to ask what a ride is for. Because that's not allowed to be part of our decision-making process. There's no prioritization. It is purely based on, we look at the resources we have, we build routes that can take as many trips as possible, and our computer maximizes the utilization of our resources. I fully get it. You would not want to listen to my voicemails. I mean, people calling and have dialysis or other things like that. And I wish we could prioritize, but we're not allowed to by the FTA.
No, thank you for clarifying that. And so based on that, it sounds like that potentially there's people out there that will continue to not get service based on where they live or whatnot. And that some people will continue to be prioritized or given service because they're on certain routes or whatnot based on logistics. Is that correct?
Well, not prioritized.
Sorry.
Sorry, no,
wrong
just be
No,
very
no,
careful.
absolutely. Yeah,
It,
wrong
it
word.
is literally is the software that Todd was referring to. We look at what resources we have, how many drivers we have, and we build as many routes as we can to service as many people as we can. Good for the good and bad, it takes the human factor out of it. We figure out how we can get the highest number of trips completed every day. And even with our subs, we've gone to them and said, because before with some of our subs, maybe too much information, they would say, hey, I'll take the front half of this trip. I'm not taking the back half. Well, then no one else, when we went to the other subs, wanted to pick up the back half. So then someone had half a trip and then they would say, well, no, I'm not going to go if I'm getting half a trip. Well, now I have a slot that didn't get utilized.
Mhm.
So we've told them you have to take round trips. You know, we can't, because then we wind up not moving some people that we could have. And these are just lessons we've learned through the strike, to make sure. We started out, closer to 45, 50%. We've been close to 60 on a few days recently. So we're getting better and better at this, with the same resources. And again, we're very hopeful with bringing some more resources in, we can significantly increase that percentage. That's plan B. Plan A is drivers back on the street and get to 100% again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Well, thank you so much for the report. Item number 3 is item number 5 is the potential revision to the Accessible Services Advisory Committee membership guidelines. I think you'll recall these being mentioned at our previous meeting, some discussion about how to change the membership. And this would be a recommendation that would be sent to MTS. And I can tell you that there's a really high chance that they would approve whatever we send them. Director Washburn, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Actually,
thank you,
if that's
thank
okay,
you.
I'll do the presentation.
Thank
Thank you. My name is Samantha Leslie. I'm the Deputy General Counsel here at MTS. And as Chair Gastil mentioned, we did bring this back on March 16th to the ASAC committee. And so these ASAC guidelines, they establish the makeup of the committee and they list various representatives, some from MTS staff, or MTS contractors, a fixed route disabled passenger, an MTS access passenger, and various social service and disability advocacy organizations. As I mentioned in our March meeting, there was 2 areas where we wanted to have the ASAC committee provide their feedback on. One is we had an issue where the representative of Caltrans, we've had a lot of difficulty finding a representative for that seat. It's been a few years. We did try further requests to Caltrans since our last meeting, and we still cannot find a representative for Caltrans. So we have that vacancy. And so one of the things we wanted to talk about is how to handle that vacancy. And the second area was we have various MTS staff and contractors on this committee as a voting member. And, to reduce any perceived conflicts of interest of MTS staff being on the committee, we also were talking about removing them as voting members, but instead having them here as staff to help present and answer any questions that might come up to help better facilitate the meetings. So, and after we also talked a little bit further internally, we also thought it might be a good chance to add some members. So in this proposal here, it again removes the MTS staff contractors, it removes the Caltrans representative, but instead of having just one fixed route passenger and only one ASAP, access paratransit passenger, we would propose making those two. So it'd be two fixed route passengers and two paratransit passengers. And as we did last time, about 3 or 4 years ago, we went out to the community and tried to get nominations and applications, and then staff reviewed it, and then we brought it back to ASAC and the chair for final approval. And so we would try to get as many applications and notices out as possible so we can have really great representatives on this committee. And so with that, all in all, it would move the total ASAC committee from 18 to 14. But we're also happy to hear any other suggestions for some of these vacancies and for the MTS staff positions and for the fixed route and paratransit passenger. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Or do we have any comments on the proposal?
There are no public comments on this item.
And anyone here have an opinion? I like the idea of more writers. Would we have any way of knowing if they're going to make it to the meetings? It seems to me that would be the number one criterion, would be ability and motivation to attend the meetings regularly.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think in the last time we did this 3 or 4 years ago, one of the items was, can you commit to coming to quarterly meetings? And we kind of laid out the potential time and days or months. You know, it's hard to say for sure, but that, can you commit? And all of the applicants, I recall, agreed to that kind of commitment. Oh. And Jay just mentioned that there would, if they're an access passenger, that they would have free transit to the committee meeting.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. And what in some cases, I wonder if it might be a friend, relative, family member. Does it have to be the writer?
To be the representative on ASAC?
Yeah, because I was in some, because I know sometimes it's like people that arrange rides for their parents or loved ones, and I'm just wondering if it has to be the actual writer.
We can definitely include in the application that we'll be willing to accept representatives of writers and see what kind of interest we get and applications we get, and then we can talk to you, the chair, and see your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because some of these writers have someone else that's helping them with the appointments and the process and everything like that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, is it Casey?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just comment. I think that that's a really good idea and a very good. Second, my support in that.
Wonderful. It's here for our approval. Can would it work if I just say, is there anybody that does not support it, and then count everybody as supporting it? Wonderful, wonderful. Do we need to say aye, or?
I can make a motion.
Yeah, we
Okay,
might
that
need
sounds
a first motion and a second. I'm not sure if we heard one yet.
I'll make a motion.
And who did I hear the motion from?
Ashley Wiley.
Oh, wonderful, Ashley, and I think Casey wanted to second it. Am I right?
I'll second.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Aye.
wonderful, wonderful. And nobody voted no or abstained. Okay, super, super. Next we have ADA paratransit reports.
All of the statistical data is included in the board packets. Again, don't want to read ad nauseum stats to you. Be glad to answer any questions anyone has.
I sure appreciate the reports. Anybody has a question, I just turn your micro, oh, I see, Juan Lopez has his microphone on.
Actually, it's been.
Because that's what our MTS chair does. He looks for the, who has their microphone lit. Yeah, I don't see any microphones lit other than Jay Washburn. Yeah.
And for the record, there are no members of the public wishing to address
Okay,
on this
oh,
item.
wonderful. And I don't know if silence means approval or if it means that they just didn't want to read all this. But I sure appreciate it. And well, this might be a quick meeting. It's 1:31 in case anybody was curious. We had a very long MTS meeting this morning, so I don't mind if this is short. It's okay with me. And fixed route reports. Do we have any fixed route reports?
Again, included in the packets, the statistics and data, and glad to answer any questions anyone might have.
I see Jorge.
I actually have more like a comment for fixed routes, and it was a pretty interesting article that I read on the LA Times about the light rail in LA, especially the Red Line, where the ridership has dropped tremendously because of the folks that are riding the rides. And I'm starting to see something similar to that here in San Diego, which is really not, it's unfortunate actually. I mean, I don't know if you have the correct numbers, Jay, and if we're starting to decrease ridership, but I'm starting to see more and more folks on the trolley and buses that are very disturbing for the other riders and stuff. Like the other day, I was riding the trolley and everyone has personal speakers on, and it's really hard to listen to the stations. It's really hard to understand what's happening around your surroundings. There's no security. There's people that are super high, and it's very sad to where our society's heading to. And it's really sad for the people like myself and others that need to ride transportation. I know we're going through the big union and workers battling out, right? But after reading this article in LA and what's happening in their transit system, it's not far away from San Diego. And I want to see what our plans are in the future to start solving that, because I guess our idea and the reason why we're here is to get more riders onto our transit opposed to less than that.
I can defer this to Brent to talk a little bit about what's going on there. Just as general, though, we all know that the homelessness situation is a significant issue in our communities right now, and I know it's a constant topic at the board that they're discussing that. So, but Brent?
Yeah. Again, talk about issues that are above pay grades. That would be here also. That's a discussion that's being discussed a lot at the board level, the safety and security issues. Many changes with the way we deploy security, increasing it, all that kind of stuff. Huge topic of conversation, and it's not just LA, and it's not just San Diego. It's happening all over the country in terms of transit and life in urban cities and stuff like that. So that's a huge topic of conversation. In terms of ridership itself, ridership is going down in most transit systems. San Diego, or light rail specifically, is kind of unique. Light trolley is light rail. We are actually at we're above pre-COVID levels for light rail. We did have the benefit of the Mid-Coast extension, which is about 10% of the ridership. But we were actually over pre-COVID levels on light rail ridership. We're still down about 30% on bus. One other thing to note is we did some analysis last month of every transit agency has to report data to the National Transit Database. Every month you have to report ridership and service levels and that type of thing. And San Diego actually had the highest light rail ridership of any agency in the country, which is pretty good. Not to say that there's not issues out there that need to be addressed, but we are seeing less of an impact on ridership on light rail than other places nationwide.
I can tell you that this is a big topic with MTS. Couple meetings back, we had a extensive presentation based on a focus group that was done with writers from all over the transit district, and the big concern that kept coming up was the safety and security in the buses and trolleys. You know, just from my own observations, it used to be that people would say they didn't ride the trolley or ride the bus because it didn't go where they wanted to go. But now I'm hearing that they're not going to ride it even if it does go where they want to go, and that obviously concerns me. But yeah, there's certainly a lot of attention going into this, and yeah, I don't know if it's related to homelessness or drug and alcohol abuse or mental illness I think it's safe to say mental illness went up during the pandemic and probably hasn't come back down again. So all of those things. Yes, definitely.
One thing I would like to add is we are part of a light rail benchmarking group across the country and Canada throughout North America. Not every light rail agency is in it, but there's 15 of us. And we actually had them sponsor a study of security issues for all those agencies. And we just got the results last few days. We can't present the results because it's all anonymized data because we're supposed to be honest, so you can't tell what other agencies are doing and that type of thing. But it's a study that we got sponsored. And I will say that everybody is dealing with the same issues. But it's a way for all of us to get together and talk about how each agency is dealing with different issues and the best ways to resolve them. So that's something that we'll probably hear more about over the next couple months, but there are significant efforts underway to address the safety and security issues.
Yeah, right.
Do we have ticket checkers anymore on the trolley? Because reality is I've ridden the trolley and I have not asked or been asked for a ticket. You get asked for a ticket when you're at the station, but not on board. And more and more I hear more youngsters are saying, hey, to hop a trolley, no one asks for tickets.
Well, I'm a regular trolley rider and I get asked a lot. And the staff are always, they're always very delighted to see a MTS board member riding the trolley. Yeah. Any other comment on that?
George, I just want to, and Ashley, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but at the last regional meeting that was at the library not too long ago, safety and security was a concern at that meeting. My guess is the one coming up, I think next month. If we're discussing the same topics, it's going to come up again. So it's not only looked at here, I think within the MTS realm, George, but also at the, Sandag, I think is looking at that as well, and for future planning, I'm guessing, and things like that. So.
Yeah, so we are looking at that. And then we have actually been attending in the past few months. Also, MTS has been there too. UCSD is doing a homelessness in transit, and they've been doing a lot of research and kind of working with other homelessness advocates and stuff. And so I know that that's a huge topic, and there's been about 3 or 4 MTS staffers who've been attending that as well with Sandag. So I know that's a huge concern. And then I believe we'll address some parts of it in our regional plan, but we'll really work with MTS on that.
I don't know if people who listen to the recording will know who's speaking. That was Ashley, and before Ashley was Todd. And maybe it'd be a good idea if people say their names, or I could say their names when I call on you. But thank you for the feedback.
Also,
Yes.
one
Jorge?
more thing. I mean, so what really bothered me actually, the last few times I've been riding the trolleys more than anything is, videos on people's cell phones and personal speakers. I wonder if we could add, the problem is you can't even hear it anymore. You know how you're riding the trolley and it says, please keep your feet off the blah, 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 whatever that is. If we could add something where people either use headsets or something, because it's really hard to, like, listen to the stations or even listen to the recording on the trolley. It's like, it's one of those things. That's the one thing that's like as a visually impaired person, it's very difficult. So you're using your ears to figure out where you're at or what's happening in your surroundings. But when people are watching video clips, or having their speakers out loud, it's very difficult. And you really can't approach them or say anything because you don't know who that person is or what's happening with them at that time.
Thank you for that. We have someone in the audience that wants to ask a question. Do we want to take that as?
Advocacy. And I do have a question related with security. We have deaf and blind consumers. We have a very strong deaf and blind community here. And they have shared their thoughts and their opinions. They do not feel safe. They do not feel secure. The deaf and blind have no, they're not able to see. And some of the staff who are drivers or working on the train, if they do assist those getting onto the train, but usually that doesn't happen too much for the deaf and blind, just for those who are hearing or may not have other disabilities. So there's lacking in support for those who are deaf and blind. And then related to being able to hear inside of the train or the trolley, you do have physical aids for those who are deaf. Is that correct? And that's my question, if there are aids visually for those who are deaf and cannot hear.
I guess the question, what kind of visual aids, like stations?
Just some sort of subtitling, some sort of captioning. For example, someone else mentioned, keep your arms and legs inside of the trolley, something like that as visual as a caption or some sort of way we could read that.
We do have rules posted in the trolley. There's signs at various locations throughout the vehicles indicating no smoking, no eating, no loud music, a number of those types of things. And other than that, the visual signs, we list the next stations coming up. That's a live sign. But in terms of the visual aids for the rules, it'd be static signs that are placed throughout the trolley.
Okay, what about Braille for those who are deaf and blind?
I do not believe there's any Braille inside the trolley vehicles. There are Braille signs on platforms that indicate the direction and line at each station.
Okay, and sorry, just to go back a bit, how are we going to improve security to support those who are both deaf and blind?
I think we probably need a representative of security, maybe to come to the next meeting, for them to answer those questions directly. I know there has been lots of discussions about security at the board meetings, as we just mentioned. It is a big topic right now. I'm not sure that there's been focus specifically on protecting deaf and blind, but I think that's part of the conversation that needs to take place. And I think if we want to have somebody from security here at the next meeting, I think that's something that we can easily do. That would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
We can
Thank
definitely
you.
talk to our Director of Security and his team and maybe bring an agenda item for the next meeting relating to safety.
That sounds like a great idea.
Sorry, Brian, I just want to add, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there is Braille for like the door open buttons and the ramp deploy
Yes,
on the
Yes,
vehicle.
yeah.
So, yeah.
those buttons are braille. Sorry, it's Samantha. I also had another question, well, more of a comment, more of a request. So I'm representing San Diego Center for the Blind. And at trolley platforms, not every trolley car announces the color line. And for someone who's blind standing there, definitely you can hear the trolley coming and approaching and stopping. But if they don't announce the color of the line, there's no way to know. But unless you ask somebody around, could we make it, I don't know how to go about this, but maybe motion to make it mandatory that every trolley line announces the color?
One of the things that we have done at some key stations is make automated announcements, not from the vehicle, but from the station. And they'll announce like, this is a blue line coming, or this is the orange line coming, and so on. We haven't done that at every station. One of the issues that we have is, especially, we have a lot of overlap with the lines downtown, right? We're
Right.
very close to residential buildings and businesses. And if you're constantly making those announcements, trains are very frequent downtown every 5 minutes, and they're operating late at night. So we get community issues regarding those. So I believe we plan them at our key transfer location. That's something that we can talk about, playing them at more stations. And, you know, we overlap downtown, we overlap out in East County, and we overlap between Old Town and.
Yeah, the Old Town
San
one's a
Pedro.
big one.
So we do have some.
Yeah.
That's something
I
we
just
can talk
noticed it's inconsistent. If we're standing there training and the train driver sees the white cane, somehow, I don't know if they push a button or if it's just magic, but it'll announce like the orange line. But there have been other times where I'm standing at that same platform and I'm like, yeah, they didn't announce the color.
Yeah, if it's a vehicle making an announcement, that would be ad hoc. That wouldn't be automated at all. So
Okay.
that would be the operator saw the person waiting and make the
Right.
announcement. If it came from the station, that's typically an automated thing. And if you've noticed it at some stations and then you go back there and you don't hear it, that's something that we'd love to hear. And then we can have our IT folks and our operations folks check that out and make sure that we address it.
Okay, and then the same thing for buses. I've been waiting for a bus. Sometimes there's a speaker, like an external, I could hear it externally from the outside of the bus standing on the sidewalk, that this is route or bus number 56. And then there have been other times where there's no audible, no announcement of what line it is. And even when you're on the bus, they're not telling you what the stop is called or nothing. It's silent.
On the fixed route, it's
Yeah.
announced at certain locations or major stops.
Okay,
They do not do the audible internal or external at every location.
so just like the most frequently.
Is the bigger
Okay, the
stops,
bigger ones.
transfer points,
I see.
transit
Okay.
centers, things like that. They're not set to make the announcements at every stop.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we have another comment it's coming online.
Arun Prem, can you please unmute yourself?
Thank you. Thank you, George. This is Arun Prem from FACT, and I just have a quick announcement, so I appreciate the time. FACT just introduced the AFA Cycle 1 grant in the form of Right Fact Now service. That's the name of our new service, Right Fact Now. And as the name indicates, it's an on-demand service that is accessible and available throughout San Diego. And we had a soft launch on June 1st. And on June 21st, we are launching it with a joint media event along with Sandag and County Supervisor Nora Vargas. This event will be held on the 21st at St. Paul's Plaza, which is in Chula Vista. And the address is 1420 East Palomar Street. And the purpose is to announce this to the public, launch some marketing materials associated with this program. And just FYI, for people in this committee, I wanted to let you know that this service is on demand, curb to curb. It can be requested 1 hour before travel. And the fare is $10 each way. And it's available as of now. The formal announcement will be on June 21st. And we would love to have all of you participate. If you have questions about the service, then please reach me or George or anybody at FACT for more information about the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. I think you might have gotten a little bit ahead because we were just finishing up the fixed route reports. And your comment, I want to file under committee member communications. Were we done with the fixed route reports? And I think we got a lot of good material to work with and pick this up at our next meeting. Item 8 is committee member communications. And we've got Todd.
Sure. Jay, I just wanted to ask a question because somebody asked me recently and I wanted to make sure I get the right answer. There was a question as to whether or not MTM was experiencing any slowdowns as a result of the workforce or strike. And I said no, because they're a different agency, but I want to make sure.
You said MTM?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, MTM is fully staffed. The eligibility assessments are going forward. We've reinstituted the virtual assessments, partly because of our lack of ability to bring people in for the in-persons. But there's no delay. Everyone is still getting eligibility certifications done in the required timeframes, and everything's flowing well there, thanks to Heriberto and his team.
Yeah, well, and thank you very much. And thanks. I just wanted to verify that I gave the right info. The same agency that you helped before Easter Seals, they'll be reaching out to you again because they're having some questions on eligibility process. So.
Glad to help.
Other committee member communications?
Chair, if I could.
Yes.
I would just like to add, I think the conversation we're having on the fixed route and the security issues and bringing in somebody from security to talk about those is great. I would love to see committee members here with other areas or questions or departments that they would like to see us bring in, or even just from outside organizations. Some of the members here maybe coming through and making some presentations about their organizations and the services they offer. This forum is meant to be an information sharing one. So I think the more we can get everyone actively involved and participating in that, will just make the outcomes of what we're able to do for our riders even better.
That does sound good. And if people have requests and recommendations, should they contact you?
I'd be glad to facilitate that. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks so much. And I can tell you that Stephen Whitburn, the chair of MTS, is going to be visiting us on September 14th. And I know he'll be really eager to hear everything that we have to share. Jana?
Yeah, super fast. So one is a thank you. We had Ariel Kroll attend transportation training that we had in April, and she did a really fantastic job of tabling on behalf of MTS and providing information. It was extremely valuable, and she was able to correct information that maybe was out of date. So just having access to a resource like that was terrific. So whatever we can do to support her would be good. Thank you, Carla, for bringing back up the online reduced fare photo option. That comes up to me frequently for older adults in particular, not being able to travel downtown. So appreciate that being a priority item, and whatever updates you can provide on the schedule for that. And the last thing that I also had a few questions come up with the older adults that I work with, using transportation from East County to downtown. That can be a long trip sometimes, and having to use the bathroom on that trip, and just voicing that there are concerns and challenges with using public bathrooms, particularly the Old Town Station was brought up. So just curious, and maybe this is a part of a future presentation, the facilities that are available for our riders. I'm making sure along the lines of safety and security that is included in that conversation.
I'm sure our chair can back me on this one, that the topics of restrooms and facilities are a monthly conversation at the board level meetings. It's something that is definitely talked about and is a major concern to MTS. Yes.
Yeah,
Can
yes,
I respond
yes,
to that
Brian.
real quickly? So for the restrooms, we have established a webpage that lists all the restrooms that are available. You can find that on the MTS website, or I can send it to you directly. Again, that has been a big topic of conversation mentioned. Old Town specifically, both at Old Town and El Cajon, the restrooms are managed by A-Mart. The restrooms are inside the A-Mart. And we've been communicating with them that they need to remain open and in good condition. We're gonna put signs at both of those locations. If they're not up yet, they'll be up soon. Reinforcing that they're free for transit users. They are free, but there are not signs posted. So that's another thing that's happening. So I definitely check out the website, and those signs will be up soon.
Yes, Todd?
She prompted me to ask one more thing. Yeah, Jay's like, no, nothing more. And you may not have the answer, but I think the SDM reduced fare ID is a 3-year ID form. I'm wondering, since you're mentioning the certification period going to 5 years for ADA para, if the SDM, is there any discussion about taking that to 5 years?
I know that question has been raised. I don't have an answer for you, but we can definitely get something get back to you on that with an answer on that.
Thank you. Any more reports? Yes.
Chair, I would just, sorry, I'd like to put Juan Lopez on the spot for just a minute, to maybe give an update on TransDev and their status with their union. I talked about the Access Group, but obviously South Bay is another major player here.
Sure. Thank you, Jay. No putting me on the spot. We did, as mentioned, there was a long meeting this morning, and thanks to the board. An approval for additional funding was given to us to use for negotiation. Fortunately, we did TA an agreement last night with the union. They will be voting on that agreement this week, and so we are hopeful that by Monday, we'll have all of our drivers who we appreciate back to work. Currently, South Bay is covering 12% of the service. We've put approximately 80 drivers out on the road. Again, it requires 400 drivers to cover the entire network. So we are optimistic. We have had sidebars with the union after the board meeting today. And hopefully Sunday we get the good news. And apologize to the community for the situation. You know, it's the nature of the relationship with the labor unions. You do negotiate contracts and sometimes expire in 3 years, some expire in 5. You have factors that come to play, such as COVID, such as changes in wages, such as other factors that aren't considered throughout the development of one agreement, then they come into play at the end. So we're addressing concerns that have developed over the years prior to our last negotiation. And again, we're very optimistic.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody that's been working on caring for passengers, getting people where they need to go during the strike. And also thank the parties in the negotiation for their efforts to end it. One thing I feel strongly about is that MTS does not negotiate. I think this morning what MTS did in approving $1 million to help settle, I think is appropriate, putting more money on the table. But I think it's really important that MTS not be putting itself in the position of negotiating and leaving it up to the parties in the collective bargaining process. I think is appropriate. But thank you to everybody who's been working on this. And I said this morning that with a strike, nobody is winning. And everybody is losing the longer this goes on. And I'm hoping that both of the contracts will be settled relatively soon. That the TA tentative agreement is definitely encouraging and encouraging news. One thing that was a little bit confusing this morning, I don't know if anyone was at the meeting or heard about it, but you heard a lot of people who appeared to be denouncing the tentative agreement. But I have it on pretty good authority. Most of those people were not in the union that had actually arrived at the tentative agreement. So I thought that was worth noting. It is encouraging, but as I said at the meeting, and I want to emphasize that it's really up to the parties in the collective bargaining to work this out. All MTS can do is, well, we could throw $1 million more in the pot. See if that helps. And from what I'm hearing, it probably has. Thank you, everybody, for your patience and work on this. Any other? Yes,
One more quick update from Crawley is anybody that's taken the green line in sees the construction downstairs at the terminal. We're still on target to wrap that up in October. Basically, what that is doing is it's giving us a second platform or second track downstairs, give us flexibility to be able to run additional service during special events, Comic-Con, that type of thing. And then also possibly give us flexibility of running trains from the Blue Line corridor along the Bayside. That'll be a future effort. But associated with that will be 3 weekend closures coming up. Basically, we will close at 10 o'clock on Friday night and it goes through all day Sunday. So starting 10 o'clock Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. It'll just impact the gas lamp and Imperial stations. And that'll be June, weekend of 15th and 16th in July, sorry. And then August 12th and 13th and 26th and 27th. So that's just something to keep your eyes on. We provide alternative bus service. So anybody that needs to get from Gaslamp to here, we'll have bus service available. So that's coming up.
Thank you. Well, anything else? We, number 9, our next meeting, September 14th, 1 o'clock. And, if there's no comment on that, number 10 is adjournment. Thank you all for coming. See you in 3 months, if not sooner.